Jesus tells a story in the Gospel of Luke in the 18th chapter, beginning with verse 9. And the story is really a warning to people like you and I who find ourselves in church on a regular basis. The story goes like this. He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and regarded others with contempt. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, was praying thus, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, thieves, rogues, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give a tenth of all my income. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even look up to heaven, but was beating his breast and saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his home justified rather than the other. For all who exalt themselves will be humbled, but all who humble themselves will be exalted. You know, when we read this story, we think, yeah, that Pharisee's wrong and Jesus is right to point that out. But Luke is pointing out something that should fill us all with a little bit of fear. One of the most frightening aspects of the Pharisee that's presented in this passage of Scripture is he has no idea that he is actually committing the sin of spiritual arrogance. In fact, his church is telling him that everything he is doing is right. You come to church, you serve on the committees, you tithe and you serve. You are the model of what a church member should be. And he ends up being the villain in the story. It's an amazing turn of events. Now, you and I would read that story and think we'd never be like that Pharisee. But you know, sometimes it can sneak up on us. I've caught myself committing the sin of spiritual arrogance. You know, I'll get with other church leaders and we'll talk about the people in our congregations that only show up on Christmas and Easter, and we'll call them C&E Christians or Creasters. But the truth is, we know nothing about what's going on in their lives. We don't know how they pray during the day. We don't know how difficult it is for them to get through life every single day. And when we judge them out of ignorance, that's arrogance. Sometimes I've been known to talk about church members in different congregations that just come to church on Sunday morning but don't go to Sunday school, don't serve on committees, don't come to the fellowships. We call them pew sitters. Your pew sitters come in, sit in the pew, and they leave. But I don't know how hard it was for them to get to church in the first place. I don't know that maybe several hours during the day they're serving someone that's very, very broken or very, very pained. I don't know what their prayer life is like. I just take one little outside look at their church attendance and I label them. That's spiritual arrogance. Pastors are probably the most guilty of spiritual arrogance of all people. But the truth is we are all vulnerable to that. I say that to you to say that one of the best things we can do for each other is respect where everybody is coming on their spiritual walk. Everybody's relationship with God is different. Everybody's way of communicating with God is different, and so is God's way of communicating with every other person. It's not our role to judge whose walk with Christ is closest or whose walk with Christ is best. Our job is to give thanks for them and to love them on the journey. Our journey is going to continue this next Sunday. We're going to worship together at 8:30 in traditional and 11 o'clock on the live stream and in the sanctuary in our blended service. Whether you're a pew sitter or a creaster or whatever it is that you may be, you are a child of God, and I feel privileged to be one of your pastors.